have to ask for akadaka or something a little bit more vibrant for my age and power me up. So good morning, everyone. I hope that this will work. It's always a bit of a worry. We've got the thumbs up, nice work in the tech booth there. Thank you. This is not only one of the most exciting discoveries in Victoria, where Peter and I live, but also one of the most exciting discoveries in Australia and arguably globally. So I look forward to taking you through this over the next 15 minutes. We're going to have a look at the three-dimensional model. We're going to go and have a look at a drone. We're going to go underground. So I've got quite an active presentation here through this software. The disclaimer, I'll whip through that. Now, in any discovery, how do you measure what's good and what's bad? And a way that I've always done it through my career is through this hit rate. So you take the number of very good hits and say 100 gram metre hits, so you times the metres down a drill hole times the grade, and if it exceeds 100, that's pretty good. That's a very good drill hole in our business. Now, I once remember Newmont, the world's largest gold miner, told me any 3-in-1 discovery in one coherent body was a bona fide discovery for them. Now, we've got 43 of them so far, or 44 I think it is now, in about 56 kilometres of drilling, or 58 kilometres. If you take that and divide it by the amount of drilling, you get the hit rate. And I can't see anything better globally today in the world. If there is, we're up there with the very best of them. So that's one key point. So this is seriously a very good discovery on those kind of measures. It is a very high-grade discovery, and I'll focus on that. We've only explored around 3%, only 3% of our 10-kilometre trend, so we're early. We're very early in the discovery stage, and that 10 kilometres implies that we've got some scale to move into. We've got 5 rigs on site today. We've added another rig over the last month. There's another rig coming next month. So you won't find many drilled properties with so many rigs at the moment, especially in the exploration business. So there's always news flow. You've always news flow. Every couple of weeks you'll see bang, 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 bang. And we've been doing that for the last 18 months, and the project's been getting better, and I'll show you why that's the case. With about 58 kilometres in the project to date, since its inception, it only had about 5 kilometres in it a couple of years ago. We put most of that in ourselves in the last few years. We're going to double those metres over the next year. So that increase in drilling is very important to make discoveries, but it also means we're on no slow track here. We've got money in the bank. We own the freehold land over the discovery. We bought that after hole 11. We knew we were onto something special and wanted to secure our future. The corporate structure, here it is in summary. Basically, you can do a lot of this yourselves. We're around about the $500 million market cap today. Institutionally, it's grown dramatically over the last year as some of the bigger named institutions, both here in Australia and around the world, come into this unique discovery. We've generated a lot of coverage there through Australia and in North America from some of the better houses that you can see named there. Now, this 49% is worth talking about because it's owned by Mawson Gold. It's a company I co-founded, and we spun the assets out of a couple of years ago. Mawson has 50% or a bit under of Southern Cross, the company. Now, the intention was to always distribute those shares to shareholders of Mawson when the escrow period finished, which was in May. But through the success of discovery and the share price increase, it created somewhat of a tax issue. So we had to find some other way to consolidate the ownership of the asset and have it dual listed both here in Australia and in Canada. So the way we're doing that is through a merger. It's going to be the same thing as for you, if any of you are shareholders, and I see many of you in the audience. It will be the same company, same name, same board, same management, same share structure, but the ownership will be consolidated, so we'll remove that major shareholder perceived overhang, and that dual listing will bring a lot more eyes to the story. That will be finished in October, late October. Here's some of the technical parts. Here's the top 10 intersections in the project. You see a lot of them have come in the last 8 months or something like that. So we're getting better and better hits all the time. And here's a way to look at it. This is when we listed the company in May 2022 on this line, time on the x-axis. If we look at the average width of the database, this is just a database analysis, the average width of any intersection stayed about the same, about 4 metres, but that grade has just continued to increase as we've hit these very high grades, a cumulative average. So why is that? That's through just a wonderful thing called geology. I'm a geologist, so I'm quite biased about geology, but it's the fundamental of everything we do in our business. And understanding the geology here is really important. So Victoria has had a lot of gold come out of it, 80 million ounces. It built the expansion of the English Empire and a lot of Australia. But modern day restarts have been quite tough. And they've been tough because they're nuggety deposits, and they don't reconcile it any way, from a sample in your hand to the stope and the rock coming out of the mine into the mill. A very different geology has formed in Victoria also. This has been lesser known. It wasn't mined that seriously by the old timers. They are a little bit more complex. These later deposits, they were formed 70 million years later. And one of the key examples is Fosterville. Fosterville is today the second highest grade gold mine on earth that exceeds 100,000 ounces a year production. Of 4 of the last 8 years, it's been the highest grade gold mine on earth. So it created $10 billion of value, but it's been owned in the Canadian market, so not a lot of Australians have benefited, nor are really aware of this very different geology. And we came in a couple of years ago into Victoria looking for that, and we found another one. And when you're in this geology, you want to go deep, because these deposits get better. That's what Fosterville was a mine for 20 years until they found this supersonic zone at depth. So we knew the geology and why it changed at depth, and there's lots of reasons that I don't have in 15 minutes to explain. But if you get below about 5 to 6 to 700 metres, you get into these bonanza grades, and that's why we're seeing that improvement. The project is about 60 kilometres from Melbourne. I'll show you a drone shot shortly, but it's relatively isolated. You think it's, when you say 60 kilometres north of 5 million people, you think, well, good luck with that. Now, Fosterville is 100 kilometres away, and that's there. Let's zoom into the project. I'm running now because I know Pete's going to tell me I've only got about 8 minutes left. So here's the trend. This is where we put the 50 kilometres in, but there is a 10 kilometre trend where there's old mines, historic old mines for that 10 kilometres, and we've drilled gold, but only put a little bit of effort here. So far we're going to come with, I think Andrew Sloot's here with Fender Geophysics. He's coming and he's actually, I see he's sponsoring some of the drinks. You hear, Andrew? Or some of the afternoon tea. A lot of that will come from our funding, because we're doing a very big survey over this area in the coming months. It's a half a $1 million IP survey, so it's a big one, just to keep the exploration upside going. So let's just look in the main drill area. You know there's lots of upside. But if we just look at this area here, here's the area. We can go underground, look at all the drilling, but the simple way to look at this very quickly is that if we look down in a plan view, the 200 metre scale here, it's like a ladder. This is a 200 metre wide zone and continues for 10 kilometres, very targetable. Within that, the rungs of the ladder are these vein sets, and we're looking down in plan. These vein sets are numerous. They're 20 to 100 metres long in that orientation. They average 2.5 to 3.5 metres wide, but it can be up to 10 metres wide. They start at surface and are very continuous, and they go down to at least a kilometre. So if we start to look at the geology, you can start to see the very high grades here. We're only showing you dots above 20 grams and up to 500. So the reds are the 500. So if I just circle those in red and just bring your eyes to some of them, you can start to see the greater than 500 gram hits start to form at that sort of depth, about 500 metres below surface. If we strip off that geology, because it's a little bit too clustered, you can see some of the results. I'm not going to read out those, and for those of you with good eyes, there's some very good results. We've drilled this down to about a kilometre down through here, over 1.2 kilometres. The yellow holes are those in the lab, so there's always news flow, and it actually, this is a little bit out of date, so we are drilling through here and all the way under here, and here we just got a hit this morning right there, 500 metres down, we hit grades up to 1.5 ounces, 500 metres below the old prolific mine. So we're starting to see the thing really start to grow beyond what this was, which was the exploration target in January. the exploration target in here was 1 to 1.6 million ounces, and I urge you to look at all the disclaimers around an exploration target. It's too early to put a resource around it, but there's 40 kilometres of drilling, so it was treated as well as it could be at 7 to 10 grams, basically gold equivalent. So that was back in January. Now we're starting to make all these hits. I talked about the one down here. We're drilling here now, and we've got very good hits all the way through here and oil mines through here, etc. We're starting to see more gold out here. We've taken big step outs down here. There's 120 grams over 3 metres down there. So this is where we're drilling over the next year with this 60 kilometres. The blue target, the target we're heading for, is 3 million ounces, and that's our aim, but we think we're a third to halfway there in the white, and we've certainly got the room to continue. So if we see any of these areas down here develop, here's a spoiler alert, keep your eyes on the news flow in those kind of areas, because that's where we're drilling now. If those holes work, then you can start to really see that we're well and truly on our way to that plan. Don't believe a geologist necessarily. This is all the AI. There's not really a hell of a lot of time to go through it, but that was the exploration target, and then all these point clouds point to where us as geologists think there's more opportunity, but so do the machines point to those areas. Let's just look around here at the drone. This is the project area where we put 50 kilometres in. This is 60 kilometres north of Melbourne, but four generations of farming families have basically been in these areas. So we're looking to the north here. There's 12 houses within 2 kilometres of the project. So not majorly densely populated. There's a big hill between us and that northern aspect. And then if you look south, there's literally no one for 10 kilometres that way. And if you look east, there's nobody for 20 kilometres. So it's quite an isolated area, and so it is in the right area in Victoria, in a populated state, to be able to develop a project in this area. Now, you may have heard a lot about antimony recently. The Chinese put in a week or so ago export bans from September the 15th. You don't have a munitions industry without antimony. Victoria's always had antimony as a second most important metal after gold. This project, Sunday Creek, was kept open under the Imperial Munitions Act in World War I because antimony was important in those days. It's had some other interesting uses. That pea-sized pill was passed down through generations as a recyclable unit, so imagine that. The main driver is industrial use in flame retardants and solar cells, to clarify the glass, but it's defence critical, and this project is one of only a very few in the Western world that will plug that supply gap. It's 82% of antimony is controlled by Russia and China. So essentially Russia and China control the munitions supply chain, which is an interesting proposition. Metallurgically, we were treated with Costerfield, which is a mine down the way in that World War I time. So we knew the projects had very similar metallurgy, so we just copied the flow sheet of that active mine, and we got very similar outcome. We have gravity and float recovery of gold, and that creates a very good commercial grade recovery of the gold. We've got this antimony gold float, which is a very critical product, and we've got more work to do on this pathway, but basically we've got a commercial flow sheet out of those initial few holes we've done, but we need to maximise gold into the gravity and keep arsenic out of the antimony gold column, which we can do through blending and or a secondary float. Victoria is open for business. We had the government stand up the other day in front of 20 funds and tell us that they were open for business. The only true way to see Victoria is open for business is permitting some more mines, which I think you'll see soon. But this is their message. They bought $8 billion more of rock to market over the last year with some different legislation that now applies to us. So a broke state really does need more development. This is a long history of mining in Victoria. 5 mines are open today, more gold than in the last 100 years, and there's some very key projects that will be permitted shortly. Lot of very good people in this team. I'm the speaking head of it. I started it, but it's a much more smarter and better people in the team. 50% female, which you really need in a modern day company to operate projects like this. We're on our way. Lots of drilling, doubling the drilling. A very exciting drill discovery. Please join us on this pathway as we go to create, which is a very significant Australian asset. Thank you very much.